So, let's cast my mind back. There was myself and my friend Gary. I always take somebody with me whenever I got a call to go and sort out a haunting. And this particular house had been known for many, many years to have problems. A new family had moved in, and something was terrorizing their newborn baby. And we all know babies cry, and we all know they also have moments of problems with teething and all of the sorts of things, because little babies are little babies. They do what little babies do. But this was different. The baby was absolutely terrified. If you took the baby out of the house, there was no problem. Put the baby back in, same problem. So the first thing you do, you get to the house. And when I saw it for the first time, well, it was one of those moments when it just looked like a normal street, terraced house, an end of a terrace, an old Victorian home, probably built around about 1890s, maybe a little bit before. Stone built, and on the side it was cladded with UPVC cladding, white, all up the side of the building. It seemed pretty normal, but there was an awful atmosphere hanging around outside the house even before you got through the door. So my friend and Gary got out of the car, approached the house, rang the doorbell, and we were greeted with the mum. As I said, we're going to change all the names to protect those that were involved, and we're going to call the mum, or the grandmother, Pam, just for this story, or Pamela. So she invites us in, and we have a chat downstairs, a little look around. Couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. He asked her who else is in that home with them, and she explained there's her son David and his girlfriend, who's the mother of the baby, Shauna, and the little baby Thomas. So I asked if I could have a chat with David, and she said not at the moment. He's sleeping in the living room, the front living room downstairs. But the biggest problem that they were having was to do with the bedroom upstairs, and that was the one that the grandmother used to the front of the property. So went up the stairs, checked on the way up for loose floorboards, anything that might creak or make a noise. Went down the corridor to the bedroom, seemed pretty normal. But when you entered the bedroom, it was very cold compared to the rest of the house. And when I say cold, I don't mean like the heating's off. I mean like below that. Maybe 2 degrees, 3 degrees, or lower, when the rest of the house was about 17 or 18 degrees. So I asked Pam, what's the biggest problem that you have then in this room? And she said, getting held down on the bed and forced. I said, forced to do what? She just said forced, as if somebody was laying on top of her and preventing her from getting up. And it was painful. I asked, was there any noises, anything to make her think that maybe she'd been woken up or something like that, and maybe had a few problems with sleep? She said no. She'd been to a doctor. A doctor had examined her and said, no, everything's absolutely fine. And this had been going on for months. So they were pretty new to the house, but it literally started as soon as the baby was introduced into the family home. I thought to myself, right, well, that's peculiar in itself. I looked around the room, again, checked floorboards, got out my EMF meter, which is an electromagnetic field meter, and checked for the pipes, the cables, anything at all that could be causing a problem. Went to find out where the boiler was for the gas central heating that they had, and it was way from the bedroom downstairs and in the kitchen at the back of the property. So I thought, I've got to help this family somehow. So the first thing I did was called out to whomever was there. And when you call out, you literally ask, well, who's here, who's in the room? And you ask them to come forward. Nothing happened. So I did my usual ritual of making sure that we were all protected with the cloak of protection, and that our guardians, guides if you like, were close, and that we were protected. And then I proceeded with the operation of trying to get this spirit out. So the first thing I did was antagonize it by saying, where are you? Come here. I want to speak to you. now, those sort of things. Nothing happened. The meter was on the bed, meter was showing 0. And I just thought to myself, well, maybe there's nothing here. Then suddenly the meter goes off, right up to the top. And this one had sound as well, the meter did. So all you could hear was like a wailing sound of the meter as it went right to the top of its scale. And there was the iciest cold patch that you could ever experience in front of you. It was like being in a freezer. I checked with my temperature gauge, and yes, the temperature had dropped down to 0 in front of us. It was absolutely freezing, and then I could feel the pressure on my shoulders, as if somebody was trying to grip hold of me and pull me out of the room. As this was happening, I said a few words, shall we say, of encouragement for it to go away, and it stayed. And we had a little bit of a scuffle, shall we say, where I pulled away as it pulled at me, and then suddenly it just let go, and we didn't know where it was. I took the EMF meter off the bed, moved it around the room until we found the cold patch, and we found out where it was again with the meter going crazy, and we realised that it was actually trying to get away from us. Then it went behind Pam, and suddenly you could see it. Welcome back, I'm Julian Reid, telling you a ghost story from about 20 years ago about a family in a house not far from Swansea. So as I said, we were upstairs. Pam suddenly got gripped with something that we could not see. It was a bit strange. You could see like a shadow around her, a big shadow. And it seemed to grab her by the arms and was holding her. She started to scream. We didn't really know what to do. I'd never experienced anything that could jump from person to person like that before, so quickly. So, best thing I could do, grab Pam by the hand and pull her out of the room. And that's what we did. I went back in alone. I wanted to see for myself what was going on. When I did, there was nothing left. No sound, no sign, no nothing. Everything had gone from that room, and the temperature had started to rise, and it was getting quite warm like the rest of the house. So I thought, it's got to be attached to someone, and it might very well be Pam. I thought it was about time to check that theory out, so I asked Pam to accompany to any other space in the house which he'd seen or heard or felt this person, this spiritual person. So she took me to the bathroom. Now, my friend Gary had been taking photographs all around the house. The bedroom, there was nothing to see in the photographs whatsoever, so I took the camera and went into the bathroom on my own. Now, Pam told me often when you're in the bathroom using the facilities, you always felt like you were being watched. Now, that's not a very comfortable thing for a bathroom, whether you're in the bath, on the loo, or just washing your hands and face. So I thought, let's have a look. I took several photos around the room, and I took one particular that showed me in the mirror. When we looked at this closer on the camera, on the screen at the back, we could see something behind me. And what we could see had two red eyes, greenish to black face, and it did not look human. So we'd actually found a demon of some description in her home. Whether you believe in demons or whether you believe in spiritual anythings, just remember that we're not the only creatures in this universe. So therefore, they could have been from anywhere, any dimension. But it wasn't a person. It was definitely a demon. I showed Pam. She started to cry, understandably. And I said, let's go downstairs and talk about this, because there's got to be some way to sort this out. So we went downstairs, went into the back living room, and as we were sitting there, we could hear a shuffle from the front living room. So we thought, right, that means that David, the father of the child, and her son must be up. So I said, look, I need to have a little chat with him. And I went into the front room on my own to have a little chat to see what's been going on. The baby was there, quite quiet at the time. And in the room I went, and I noticed a lot of bottles of spirits, also cans, just laying about everywhere, opened. And David looked as if he was absolutely cut with alcohol. So I thought to myself, we've got a problem, because there's an alcoholic in the house. And not only did he seem to be an alcoholic, but he was very depressed. His whole demeanour, his attitude, everything about him stank. So I thought, this is our problem. I went back to chat with Pam and said, have you ever had this happen anywhere before in any other property? And she said, yes, it's been happening for about the last 7 or 8 years. So I said, well, what's happened 7 or 8 years ago? And she said that's when her son, David, started drinking heavy and started to have problems with his depression. So that was where I think this demon came into it, because it wasn't linked to Pam. It was linked to David. And of course David is with the baby, and the mother of the baby, Shauna, was often away at her mother's house and just stayed every now and again with the grandmother and with her sort of on-off boyfriend, I'd call him, David. And David was the one who looked after the child. Now I asked the question, when the child's out of the room and the baby is out of that room and say with Pam, does he ever cry? And the answer was no. He just does normal baby things, cries when he needs to, burps when he needs to, and gets changed when he needs to. So just baby things. So I said, what does David actually do then with the baby when he looks after her? And she said, well, just calls me and I go and do it. I said, well, that's fair enough. I got a little bit of an understanding, and then the baby started crying and crying really loud. So I went in quickly to have a look at what was going on, but nothing. David was there. He was in a bad mood. He was shouting and complaining, and the baby was obviously picking up on this. So I thought, right, let's go back upstairs again and see what's happening upstairs in the house. And as I went to go up the stairs, you could feel the pressure holding me back. I slowly made my way up, went into Pam's bedroom, and again it was like an ice block in there. And I thought, well, why would you be attacking Pam, but you're attached to David? I was back upstairs looking around, and the room got really cold again. So I thought the only thing I can do is start to do some blessings. So I started to bless the room, bless the house, bless every corner, every nook and every cranny. Went and got some sage and burnt that, and stayed there for as long as I could till I felt the atmosphere change. David, unfortunately, wouldn't do anything. He decided no, didn't believe, and he was going to stay as he was. And Pam wanted just to have a good night's sleep in bed and not have this problem. So I told her what to do, to carry on blessing the house, and do it sort of every day if you can, different parts, different areas, and just try to keep on top of that. I also told her that whatever it is that's here is quite strong, quite powerful, and it might not go until David sort of sorts himself out, maybe goes and sees a doctor, and gets some antidepressants, something to help his mood, and maybe somebody to talk to him about his drinking. I just know from experience from the past that when anybody's got an issue or a problem that brings them down, sometimes they can attract bad spirits, and that's not bad people in spirit. That is entities like demons. So I thought, right, that's all done. Pack up my gear, and myself and Gary said, right, we'll catch you in the week, see how this goes, and we walked back to the car. I kept feeling like I had cobwebs all over my body. It was really, really awful. Sat in the car, got the meter out, the EMF meter that is, and decided to check that we were okay. And lo and behold, we weren't. We were covered in something that was trying to suppress us in the car. It was one of the worst experiences I've ever had. There's no way I could drive like this. So I got out of the car, checked myself outside, still all around me, still everywhere. And checked Gary as well, the same thing. And as we looked at the house, it was almost as if the house was laughing at us, saying, "You didn't get me this time." And with that, we just drove away. And about a week later, spoke to Pam. She said the problem is not going. And I said, number one, get David to help himself, and then call me and we'll come back. She never called. And that's not quite the end of the story. The photographs that we took that night, they were put onto a computer, and we went back to it a little bit later on, analysed them, and it was quite impressive. I must admit that one photograph in particular was probably one of the most scariest photographs I've ever taken. And there were one or two others as well that had sort of anomalies in them, from orbs to shapes. And the most bizarre thing ever happened to them. We stored them in two places, two different computers. And when we went back to put them up online, to show the world, they'd gone. All of them, of both computers. Not just the image in the photographs, but the photographs themselves. On the camera, no trace of them. So we'd lost a lot. And somehow, it happened in two different places at the same time. Don't have nightmares. Bye for now.